So, hi. First, I want to do a small introduction to myself. My name is Johannes Dvorak Lagos. I work as a software architect within a mobile project at Bouvet. For those that don't know who Bouvet is, it's one of the largest consultancies in Norway, with a lot of offices around Norway and some in Sweden. The last years I have been deployed to NRK to work with Yr, the weather app. The rest of my time I spend as a father of 3 kids and a husband, and I tend to ride mountain bikes. So when Patricia contacted me asking if I could do a presentation, I thought first that I could talk something about Yr, the app. But I didn't make the coolest thing of the app, the particle animation that many ask me about what's happening with the clouds. Someone did some sorcery around 2017, and I haven't touched that code at all. So I think actually no one have touched that code since 2017. So I hope there is no bug on it. Anyway, the app is quite cool. We have around 12 million unique users at week, combined with web and mobile. But I'm not gonna talk about it. Since we're gonna hear so many cool technical talks today, I thought that we talk about interdisciplinary working. So we start telling a little bit of my own thoughts I had when I was a young developer. In the start of my career, I thought that I'm never going to have major opinions about design issues or as a subject. I thought that if I design something, it will be like white background, black borders, boxes, with some black text. Kind of wireframe. So actually, one time I was asked for a project presentation if I could do some wireframes, and it looks so ugly that my boss asked a designer if he can make it better. So, but like Gil from Silicon Valley, I was more interested in how many terminal windows I had open than how the stuff I was developing looked like. How it looks, it was my concerns. That was the designer's responsibility. I just critically set up include the background image the designer sent me, or put the margins he told he looks good. I didn't care about how the guidelines from Apple or Google was. I actually took some years before I start reading it at all. And it was very waterfall project methodology. Instead of concerning about the user experience of the app, I was more interested in how the code looked like. It had to look fancy or sexy. Okay, I know that fancy code doesn't normally give many gains. Perhaps the apps get a little bit more faster and a little bit more optimized, but it actually also make it difficult to read. Like the former presentation told that also you have to write simple code. So, but it doesn't matter if the motor is a Ferrari when the car body looks like a Lala. So after a while, I understood that working as a mobile developer, I need to have an opinion about design. The difference between developers and programmer are that as mobile developer, you work with the whole stack. You will make an interface that will talk with other remote REST API. You will develop the user interface. You will also touch the database of the phone and create the business layer. And don't forget about the security and the signing mechanism. But mostly you have to focus on the user experience and the performance. Otherwise, no one will use your app. So I'm very sure that if you download an app that just was white background with black borders, you will uninstall it very fast. So it exists very few mobile designers. Many designers work on different platforms, websites, perhaps mobile, print, etc. On a mobile phone and mobile app, you normally have 10 seconds limit. That it's the average time from you download the app, start it, and decide to delete it or not. Website normally doesn't have that kind of limitations. The competition among apps, it's quite different than websites. In 2016, around 20% of the apps you install in your phone, it's open just one time before you delete it. And if you start to trigger an in-app message, at the moment you start the app, the percentage of surviving from that app, it's even lower. And therefore, it's extremely important to know about the platform you're working at, especially when you're working with apps. I'm not talking about if it's a native app or cross-platform app, what they can do or can't do. I'm talking about which is the standard of the platform. What kind of user experience are the user used to? The animation, small crisp animation the platform gives you. This icon, it's a very good example of a designer that wasn't clear about the limitation of the screen boundaries to the phone. On that time, the screen standard was 320 per 480 pixels, and the icon limit was 48 pixels. So, in the small icon, does anybody here see if there is a shopping basket or the Trump logo? This was a project where the person that designed the icon didn't work with the team that developed the app. That person had the responsibility to develop the prints that was placed physically in grocery stores. So that logo worked very well on prints that was more than 2 meters high. We who developed the app, we just start complaining that icon didn't work at all. So at the end, the customer changed the icon after 4 years. Well, let us rewind a little bit about the title of the presentation, how a developer made me a better developer and designer, sorry. Many times we experienced that the project wasn't just about a mobile app. It was a complete system with web page and a large backend. It was meant to sync among all the devices and the clients. As an example, the menu project I mentioned in previous slide, they want the scope that you could share the grocery list and edit it in the same list with rest of your family. When the project used the waterfall method, normally the designer sat alone designing for a long time a complex system without talking with a solution architect or the developers. And they didn't cross-check if something is possible. So when they were done, they have a handover to a designer, to a developer, and they say that, okay, then you sync the data with the server and you keep working on a web page, for example. When I was a junior developer, I thought that syncing is not that difficult. And the designer also think that it's not that difficult. Many spent 2-3 years trying to solve that synchronization issue, and after a while, they launched some kind of simple solution. And the syncing component was live about 6 months, and they took it down. It didn't work that well. So, in another project where syncing was the hub, we didn't succeed. And then we sat down, both the developers and designers. We talk about around 8 hours and about syncing, why it's always so difficult, why the designer always want to have some kind of synchronization between the clients, and which could be the best approach. So with that talk, the designer learned that it's not that easy that they think. And we developers also heard them and understood a little bit better why they always want that. But personally, I learned that talking across the disciplines make us understand much better the issues that lies before us. So in a conceptualization phase, it's very important to bring all the kind of expertise and experts. Working interdisciplinary will make the concept better and stronger. And the designer that made me a better developer didn't just want to discuss what kind of possible you have with the platform. Sometimes I feel that we programmers are kind of party poopers, because we always, when we ask, we say, no, it's not possible. So, but this designer, he also want me to participate actively in the conceptualization. That was very nice. So, in this project, the designer want me to have a discussion around what kind of sign in and login was best. He was very positive to one-time password, like in the right side. I was a little bit. I was very negative to OTP. I was more a traditional guy with the login, with the username and password. So we discussed a lot about it, and we didn't agree at all. So we went to the customer, and the customer say, "Okay, I want username and password." So the designer went back and have to make an adjustment in all his sketches because that discussion. So that's one main points of this story. It's that likewise we developer tend to go and refactor the code very often. The designer also need to do it, because the design also is the kind of documentation. So after a short period of developing, we used to have design reviews. The aim of the reviews was always to check if the design fit on a small screen. In a former company I work at, we have a very large design environment, and the designer used very fancy screens. And this designer also have a very good reputation about designing fancy and creating fancy stuff. So when I met this designer, my first reaction was he was very consistent of using just the screen of the Mac. And he even wanted a screen with lower resolution. So I asked him why he didn't use a larger screen, like most of the other design I knew about. So the answer he gave me was that average Joe normally doesn't sit with a screen to 30,000 crowns. They just have a very cheap Windows machine, perhaps 3,000, 5,000 instead of that fancy. So for him, it was difficult to sit in a fancy screen and developing and designing when the end user sit in a very cheap screen. So therefore, he said that it was important when design reviews on the phone, because then he could check all the font size, the margins, and the distance between elements work very well. And sometimes we have to do adjustment in the code, and after that he went back to design and make the adjustment in the sketches. So perhaps it was like this picture where the icons looks like in different sizes, but they actually are the same size. The heart looks bigger than the shopping basket. And we got a little bit trick about that basket. Perhaps it's the handlebar that it's part. It doesn't look part like of the shopping basket. And actually, this we notice after we have do all the adjustment and center it by the physical distance. So we have to move the heart and the basket because it's should look something similar. And then the designer also made the adjustment after all. The design reviews made me understand a little about how a designer think. And more important, it gave me a kind of design awareness. It also made me that I wanted to study even more about the platform I use and the tools I could use to develop. Some of the tools were already there. I work in Android Studio, and they have a very nice layout inspector where you can check how the code, the user interface is rendered on the phone, and you can do 3D movement and perspective. So all this designer also triggered my curiosity. More I dive into the platform, hungry I was to learn even more. Not just about design elements of my platform, but also of development and architecture. So, thank you.